Hi, this is Alex from Groovy Entertainment. Today we got another book to read for you. Today's book is The Adventure of Pinocchio, Pinocchio in the Puppet Show for 1982. So let's get started. One day, Master Cherry was making a table leg out of a piece of wood. As he raised his axe, he heard a strange voice cry, "Don't hit me so hard." Master Cherry looked all around, but saw no one. Later, when he rubbed the wood smooth, the voice cried out, "That tickles." Master Cherry jumped back. He had never heard of a talking piece of wood. Just then, Master Cherry's best friend, Geppetto, came to the door. He said, "If you will give me a piece of wood, I will carve a puppet that sings and dances." Suddenly, the strange voice called out, "Geppetto is a pudding-head." Geppetto thought his friend was making fun of him. "You insult me," cried Geppetto. "I did not," Master Cherry replied. "You did so," cried Geppetto. Finally, they stopped fighting. Master Cherry handed the strange piece of wood to his friend, but as he held it out, the wood moved by itself and banged against Geppetto's knees. "You hit me," cried Geppetto. "I did not," cried Master Cherry. "You did so," cried Geppetto. At last, the two friends stopped fighting, and Geppetto took the strange piece of wood home with him. As soon as he was home, Geppetto set out to work, carving his puppet. "I will call him Pinocchio," he said. As soon as he had carved Pinocchio's eyes, they seemed to stare at him. When he had carved the nose, it began to grow, and as soon as Pinocchio had a mouth, he started to laugh. "Stop laughing," scolded Geppetto. Then Pinocchio stuck his tongue out. When Geppetto had finished carving the puppet, he taught him to walk. Suddenly, Pinocchio darted outside. "Wait!" cried Geppetto. But Pinocchio just laughed and ran down the street. His wooden feet made a loud noise. Geppetto ran after him, calling, "Stop him! Stop him!" What a sight it was! All the town people laughed at the puppet and the old man. Finally, a police officer stopped Pinocchio. He held him by his long nose until Geppetto could catch up. But when Geppetto tried to take the puppet home, Pinocchio would not go. He purposely threw himself down on the ground and cried. Soon a crowd of people had gathered. "That poor puppet," they said. "Who knows how bad Geppetto will treat him?" "Geppetto looked like a mean old man," someone said. "He will probably beat that poor puppet," someone else said. "He should be sent to jail." Then everyone cried, "Yes, send Geppetto to jail." And so the police officer took poor old Geppetto off to jail. "That naughty boy," thought Geppetto. "I should have known he would bring me nothing but trouble." Pinocchio ran off across the field. When he reached Geppetto's house, the door was open, so he went inside. He was about to sit down when he heard someone call his name. "Who's there?" cried Pinocchio. "I am the talking cricket," replied the voice. "Boy who do not listen to their parents are always sorry later," said the cricket. Pinocchio laughed at the cricket and said, "If I listen to Geppetto, I will have to go to school, so I will run away instead." The cricket replied, "Then you will grow up to be nothing but a donkey. I pity you, because you are only a puppet with a wooden head. You are sure to end up in prison some day." At that, Pinocchio chased the cricket out of the house. By now it was late, and Pinocchio was very hungry. He went outside and rang someone's doorbell. A man leaned out of a window and said, "What do you want at this time of night?" "Something to eat," replied Pinocchio. A minute later, the man dumped a bucket of water down on the puppet and said, "That will teach you not to wake people in the middle of the night." Pinocchio returned home, cold and tired. He lay down by the fire to warm himself, and soon he was fast asleep. But his feet was too close to the flame, so as he slept, his wooden feet began to smoke. By the time the morning came, Pinocchio's feet had become two lumps of coal. A knock at the door woke Pinocchio. "Who is it?" he called, yawning and rubbing his eyes. "It is I," said Geppetto. "Open the door." Pinocchio tried to stand up, but he had no feet. I can't," called Pinocchio. "My feet had ran away." Then Geppetto said, "I'm tired of your silly games." And he climbed in through the window. Geppetto was so angry that he scolded and scolded, but when he saw how hungry Pinocchio was, he finally stopped. He took out 3 pears that had been saving for his own breakfast and gave them to Pinocchio. "Eat these," he said. Then he carved out 2 new wooden feet for Pinocchio and glued them in place. Pinocchio was so happy that he jumped up and down on his new feet and ran around the room. Then he said, "To show you how grateful I am, I will even promise to go to school. But first, I will need some school clothes." So Geppetto sat down and made some new clothes for the puppet. Soon Pinocchio looked almost like a real boy. "You will also need a spelling book," said Geppetto, "but that is something I cannot make. I cannot buy one either because I have no money." Then Geppetto saw his winter coat and he got an idea. He picked up his coat and went to the door. "I will be back soon," he said, and he went outside. A few minutes later, Geppetto came back. He did not have his coat, and he was shivering in the cold. "Father," cried Pinocchio, "where is your coat?" Geppetto smiled and said, "I did not need it, so I sold it, and I bought this for you." Then he handed the puppet a new spelling book. Pinocchio threw his arm around his father and hugged him. Geppetto kissed Pinocchio goodbye and sent him off to school. As the puppet walked along, he thought, "Today I will learn to read, and tomorrow I will learn to write. The next day I will learn to add and subtract. Soon I will be smart enough to earn a great deal of money. Then I will buy my father a new coat." As he walked along, Pinocchio began to hear music in the distance. "What can that be?" he wondered. "If I didn't have to go to school, I could find out, but I promised Geppetto." Soon Pinocchio could hear music more clearly. "Oh, well," he said, "I can always go to school tomorrow." And off he went to find out where the music was coming from. Soon he saw a crowd of people going into a big tent that was painted with every color of the rainbow. Pinocchio went up to a boy who was selling tickets and asked what was inside the tent. The boy pointed to a sign and said, "Can't you read?" When Pinocchio shook his head, the boy explained that a puppet show was about to begin. "Do you have any money?" asked the boy. Pinocchio shook his head. "Then you can't buy a ticket and you can't see the puppet show," said the boy. Pinocchio tried to borrow some money, but the boy would not lend him any. "I will sell you my new jacket," said Pinocchio, but the boy only laughed and said that a puppet jacket would never fit a real boy. Then Pinocchio tried to sell his shoes, but the boy laughed at them and said that a puppet shoe was only good for firewood. Suddenly, Pinocchio thought of his spelling book. "One spelling book for sale," he cried. Just then, a peddler walked by. He took the spelling book and gave Pinocchio just enough money to buy a ticket for the puppet show. Inside the tent, the puppet show had already begun. Two puppets were on stage, arguing and shouting at each other, as if they were real people. The audience was laughing and having a good time. Pinocchio sat down in an empty seat and watched the puppets. Suddenly, the show stopped, and the puppet cried, "Look, Pinocchio is in the audience." "Yes, yes," cried all the puppets, coming out from behind the curtain. "It is Pinocchio, hooray!" Then a friendly puppet named Harley Quinn called out, "Pinocchio, come up on the stage with your wooden brothers and sisters." So Pinocchio made a big leap and landed right on the band leader's head. With another leap, he landed right on the stage. The puppet greeted Pinocchio as if they had known him for years, but the audience was beginning to grumble. "What's going on?" they wondered. Suddenly, the puppet lifts Pinocchio on their shoulder and marched around the stage. Now the audience was shouting, "Get on with the show." At that very moment, the puppet master appeared. He was the man who ran the show, and he was so big and ugly that all the puppets feared him. "How dare you stop the show?" roared the man. Pinocchio tried to say that it was not his fault, but the puppet master bellowed, "Silence!" Then he seized Pinocchio and took him away. He hung him up on a nail in the dark closet. When the show was over, the puppet master had two puppet police officers bring Pinocchio to me. Then he said, "I am cooking a roast for my dinner, but the fire is not hot enough." Pinocchio had made of very dry wood. "Throw him into the fire." Pinocchio cried and begged and called out, "Father, Father, come and save me," but Geppetto did not come. As the man listened to Pinocchio cry, his heart began to soften. At the same time, his nose began to itch. Suddenly he sneezed. Suddenly he sneezed. One of the puppets whispered to Pinocchio's ear, "That means he felt sorry for you." Then the puppet master said, "I have changed my mind. Pinocchio will not go into the fire after all. Instead, Harley Quinn will go in his place." "Oh no," cried Pinocchio. "Set Harley Quinn free too." But the man refused. "One of you must go into the fire," he said. At that point, Pinocchio did a brave thing. He said, "Then let it be me." At once, the puppet master's nose began to itch. He sneezed again and again, which meant that no one will be thrown into the fire. And all the puppets were so happy that they danced and sung all night. Early in the morning, the puppet master asked Pinocchio what his father's name was. "His name was Geppetto," replied Pinocchio, "and he is kind and good. He even sold his coat so he could buy a spelling book for me." Then the man sneezed because he felt sorry for Geppetto. He said, "Here are 5 gold coins. Take them, Pinocchio, and give them to your poor father." Then Pinocchio said goodbye to the man and the puppets. He thought of how worried his father must be, so he made up his mind to go straight to Geppetto's house. From now on, he would do everything his dear kind father wanted him to do. And so, with his 5 gold coins in his pocket, Pinocchio set off to turn home. So that was the adventure of Pinocchio, Pinocchio and the Puppet Show from 1982. So if you like, subscribe, share, and comment. Have a groovy day when another video comes out real soon.